Good evening. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. If anybody would like an agenda, I believe they are piled up on the stool just outside the door. Before we get started, I see Nate Thomas. Would you mind standing to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up on the agenda is a mayoral proclamation, and I will read that now. Whereas the arrival of Christopher Columbus on the shores of the New World in 1492 marked the beginning of relations between the Americas and the rest of the world and opened the doorway to knowledge and exploration known as the Age of Discovery. And whereas, after Columbus, millions of European immigrants brought their art, music, science, medicine, philosophy, and religious principles to America, which contributions have helped shape the United States and include Greek democracy, Roman law, Christian ethics, and the belief that all men are created equal. And whereas on Columbus Day, we honor the skilled navigator and man of faith who President Benjamin Harrison described as a pioneer of progress and enlightenment, whose spirited voyage transformed the Western Hemisphere and inspired countless others to pursue their dreams and convictions in the face of seemingly insurmountable doubts and adversity. And whereas the accomplishments of Columbus through his courage and willingness to take unknown risks in exchange for discovery, knowledge and greatness has trickled down through each generation of Americans, from the early pioneer settlers to the exploration of the vast universe beyond our atmosphere. And whereas Italian Americans constitute our nation's fifth largest ethnic group, whose contributions to American culture, business, and civic life have been of unquestionable value to our diverse, shared history, now therefore I, Nick Isgro, the Mayor of Waterville, hereby proclaim October 14th, 2019 to be Columbus Day. And I urge all of Waterville's residents to celebrate this day with appropriate ceremonies and remembrances, and to commemorate and honor all of those who have contributed to our diverse shared history. Next on the agenda is a disclosure of conflict of interest. Is there any conflict of interest with any of the votes that these councilors will take tonight? Seeing as none, I will move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Could I get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Moving on to unfinished business. Resolution 156. Ma'am, we will have a time, community notes for anyone who's here who would like public commentary. We'll be able to come up and have 3 minutes to have their say, and we will be sure that we allot all of the time for anybody who would like to come to the microphone during that time. Again, Resolution 156, 2019.
A resolution providing for adoption of a new fee schedule for dispatch services. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as the municipal officers that the attached fee schedule be adopted for all dispatch communities beginning on January 1, 2020, except for Winslow and Oakland. The contracts with Winslow and Oakland will begin on July 1, 2020.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the council?
Amend. She read the old one, but
Right.
we should amend it. We passed this copy out
You
to
did.
all of you. So that all communities will be on the same July 1 to June 30 schedule. All 8. I think it's 8.
Yep.
I'd make a motion to amend the resolution to reflect the change that Mike suggested.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment?
So we did meet with those communities, and they were okay with the changes that we proposed?
Well, not all of them are okay, but they're looking into options that they may have for getting services somewhere else. But we certainly have reached out to everyone and talked with them and told them that if they have any problems, questions about the fees, to come back and talk to us. So I want to thank Councilor Thomas for sitting in on all the meetings we had with other town officials. And of course, Chief Massey was part of that too. So, this is a big change that much more accurately reflects, as Councilor Thomas said last spring, much more accurately reflects what they receive from services. In the past, the city's been covering the great bulk of that cost for dispatch, and now it's being apportioned in a much, much fairer way.
So we'll just take a vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment? Can I get a motion to move as amended?
So moved.
Second.
And now, is there any further discussion on the actual proposal?
Much more revenue is this going to bring the city?
Somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple $100,000.
Saving the taxpayers money.
And I'm sorry I didn't attach the actual schedule to the resolution, but I'll get it to all of you.
And to be clear, these fees are not, yes, they will certainly bring extra revenue, but they are still incredibly fair. We believe that they're going to be a better deal for other communities to continue to use our dispatch as opposed to going somewhere else or doing their own. I think we'll find that we are still the most competitive game around. I do want to thank Councilor Thomas, who has dedicated a ton of time to making this happen.
And I will say that in our meeting, the only real objection we heard is that it's a substantial increase in a one-year period. We did keep hearing over and over again that they think the rates are fair. So the only objection really was that it's a large increase. But of course, my argument was that we have been inordinately footing this bill for quite a long time. And so it's time, rather than try to phase this in for other communities, I don't think that would be fair for Waterville. I think it's time for the other communities to step up and pay their fair share for this service.
Agreed.
Correct.
Any other commentary? Any questions on this from the public? All right, Patty, could I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Bofia?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Coelho?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on with unfinished business, Ordinance 160, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
An ordinance providing for amendment to the Licenses and Permits Ordinance, Appendix A, License and Permit Fee Schedule.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion. Any questions from the public? Could I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Bofia?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Coelho?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving along, Order 161, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An order providing for approval of forfeiture.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Could I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Bofia?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Coelho?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Order 162, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An order providing for acceptance of a 2018 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to thank Chief and his crew for all the hard work you guys have been doing. I know that you guys are always writing, this is for the grants, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah? No, that's for the grant.
But I do appreciate, I know we've been spending a lot of time together, and we'll continue with Councilor Morris later, we'll discuss that, but I really appreciate what your people are doing.
Councilor Bofia?
Just want to reiterate that and just commend, the chief and the entire council. This speaks to what we have decided to do as a council, and as a city body to look for ways to save taxpayers money and to bring additional revenue so we can, lower the tax burden for our constituent. And these are the things that help us do that. And I just want to say, again, I give congratulations to this council and the chief and all the city officials for all the hard work they've been doing.
Councilor Mayhew, did you want to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that as well. On behalf of the council, as said by, the rest of us, is that, we can't give enough credence to Fire Chief Sean Essler and his entire team and the entire department for what they do with the grant writing and applications for this process. And, definitely, if any, in all contexts, when we look at what happened out in Farmington, the awful tragedy that became of that happened, it made the headlines. These guys as first responders and girls as the first responders, these are the absolute on the front line every single day, 24/7. This grant provides absolute needed funding for equipment that is urgently needed for them to stay on top of their game and be competitive against and safeguard all of us as residents and the community and even the region when they respond as assistants to other departments. I am so thrilled about the camaraderie between departments and the firefighters themselves, and it's a huge family, and I take great pride on behalf of the Waterville City Council and moving ahead with this.
Great. All right, Patty, could I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Bofia?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Coelho?
An emphatic yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Last, under unfinished business, Ordinance 163, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An ordinance providing for amendment to zoning.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Counselor?
Just want to reiterate my position on this during the first reading, and I will again the second reading on behalf of my constituency and my Ward 4 that oppose the rezoning of this parcel, Commercial A to Commercial C. I've listed my reasoning, and I side with the majority of the Waterville Planning Board in their deliberations and their planning and their concerns moving ahead past the Commercial C. Obviously, it will be rezoned, but then we have the matter of the marijuana ordinance and the stipulations of the 500 feet threshold from religious and educational institutions. So with that, and on the basis of that, I just want to reiterate that I will be supporting the majority of the planning board on this matter.
Are there any other questions or comments from the public? Could I get a roll call, please, Patty?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Bofia?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
No.
Counselor Coelho?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 1 opposed.
We are moving on to new business. Resolution 166, 2019.
A resolution providing for issuance of a special amusement permit to Rita's Catering LLC doing business as the End Zone. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Waterville, acting as municipal officers as follows, that a special amusement permit be issued to Rita's Catering LLC doing business as the End Zone, 38 College Avenue.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Resolution 167, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for bid award for fire station roof repairs.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Councilor Coelho, do you have a?
I don't see where we had the other bids. Is that on here?
Yeah, but it's the
It's
next.
two bids. on
It's
the
down.
paper.
It's down.
The second one was twice as much.
Yeah, there should have been a memo that was attached to the
Yeah, it's a memorandum.
resolution.
Got it, thank you. Oh, yeah, it's like a third of the price. Thank you.
I'm pretty confident in that decision.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions or comments from the council or from the public? All in favor? That was unanimous. Resolution 168, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second?
All in favor?
An order providing for acceptance of a 2018 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Chief.
I just have a couple comments on this. I brought in cardiac monitors just so you could have a visual and understanding actually what we're replacing. Each cardiac monitor costs about $45,000. It's very expensive. As part of the acquisition in this grant, we're also going to require 5-year service contracts. So essentially, for the next 5 years, they'll be maintained at no cost to us. The second comment that I had was I brought my other team with me, as you can see in the back of the room. My other team is the area fire chiefs that are involved in this grant. And I will tell you that we sat down cooperatively to discuss the needs of the fire service, and cardiac monitors quickly became a priority for us to replace, considering that EMS is almost 80% of our business. So through cooperative effort and through the assistance of the fire chiefs in the back, which honestly I really appreciate them inviting me to be a part of their team as such a new and young administrator. I really appreciate it, and I just wanted to publicly say thank you. And I'm sure there'll be more to come in the upcoming years. But if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We'll move that to a vote. All in favor? Fire Department still, Resolution 169, 2019.
A resolution providing for ratification of collective bargaining agreement fire department unit. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as the municipal officers that the City Council ratify a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Waterville and the Waterville Professional Firefighters, IAAF Local 1608, for a 1-year term effective July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 for the fire department unit.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just want to say,
Counselor?
this was a sort of a fun and different negotiation. And I appreciate the time that we spent doing that, because that was a lot of fun.
It was. Any other questions or comments? Any questions from the public? All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Great. Resolution 170, 2019.
A resolution providing for ratification of collective bargaining agreement, Public Works, Parks and Recreation Unit. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers that the City Council ratify a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Waterville and Teamsters Local 340 for a 3-year term effective July 1, 2019 through June 30, 2022 for the Public Works, Parks and Recreation Unit.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
Again, another union contract that I was involved in. I want to take some time to really thank Bobby Joe. She does a tremendous job
Tremendous.
She does.
with us. And, I mean, she takes all the notes, she gets all these contracts written up. We get to, it's fun when the union people break down and laugh for us. This was a new one for you. But again, I think this is a good deal for the city. I think we didn't give them everything they wanted. We got the lion's share. I think it worked out for us. It works out for them. They get the pieces that they need. I think that we should all vote on this one.
Any other questions from the public? All in favor? Resolution 171, 2019.
A resolution providing for formation of a council committee to study nonprofits. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers that a subcommittee of the council be created to study the question of collecting donations from nonprofit institutions. City council members shall be Mike Morris, Phil Bofia, Jay Coelho.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Councilor Mayhew.
Wanted to shed some light on this particular resolution. and the creation of this committee. This has been in the works for quite a long time in private discussion, off to the side on the sidewalks and various places between members of the council and residents showing concern. So we are definitely taking this more serious, and we're forming an official committee with these three councilors and with the mayor involved on this committee. And what it seeks to do is simply to have dialogue with the nonprofit entities to discuss a possible pilot program or a donation program to just simply to have the discussion. And we feel like this is the proper way going forward for residents and taxpayers and everybody involved. Just wanted to give clarity on what this committee is formed for.
Any other discussion? Counselor?
Like Councilor Mayu pointed out, this is a discussion we believe is very much overdue. And the great thing is that we have an able and willing council that is willing to put their heads together with our local entities and nonprofits to try to see how we can help the city that we all live in. So it's much, it's going to be a dialogue, and that's what we want to make sure that everybody understand, because we want to bring everybody to the table to make sure that we can help our city move forward. And this is one of the steps that needs to happen in order for us to do that.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the public? All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor? And finally, Ordinance 172, 2019.
An ordinance providing for amendment to marijuana ordinance. Be it enacted by the Waterville City Council acting as the municipal officers that Articles 4 and 5 of the marijuana ordinance be amended as shown on the attached.
Move to adopt.
And second.
Any discussion?
I think I've had some time. We discussed this at our last meeting a little bit. We touched on it. Councilor Morris, myself, and the mayor have looked at the fee structures, along with Mike, of other service centers. We looked at our fees. We looked at a whole slew of things, and we came up with a bunch of different numbers. And at this point, we're looking at anything we can. The last segment we just talked about, we're looking at nonprofits. There is not a stone that we will not uncover to find money to help our residents in this city. This is just one of those platforms. We look at the fee structure as a way to, A, bring revenue to the city, but B, to make sure that the people that are going to come and initiate these businesses here in the city of Waterville are going to do it properly, safely, and we are not looking for fly-by-night companies. We want companies that are stable and want to be part of our community, period.
Counselor?
I as well have looked into some of these changes that Councilor Mike Morris and Jay have looked at along with the mayor, and I was on the marijuana committee, and I want to, and again, I have to applaud the marijuana committee members, because I was a part of that process, and we definitely do want to have this type of business in the city, and beneficial to both sides. I do agree that when you look at the service center aspect of the municipality that Waterville is, and we compare that with other municipalities throughout the state of Maine, as far as the fee schedule is concerned, we're very uncomparable at the offset of the beginning of our fee schedule as structured. This brings us more in line to be competitive and equal to other municipalities our size as service center cities. Obviously, we know that the city of Waterville doubles in population, if not more, from Monday through Friday. And we know that outlying towns use us as a service center for various types of things. Just the volume of traffic from a business standpoint is attractive. When you're talking about volume, when you're talking about sustainability, when you're talking about profitability, you're talking about a very varied aspect of things that are very beneficial to business. We understand that there are lower fees with other communities in and around Waterville, and they charge a little bit less, but at the same time, we're also looking not only for the revenue intake, as stated, to help taxpayers in Waterville, who literally, when you look at the history of every municipal budget, are on the ropes day and night, every single day of the year. And we, as stated, as a council, this has been the most productive council, in my opinion, of the years that I have served in looking at every avenue to find a revenue source to help alleviate where the taxpayers are in concern for our high tax bill rate, which is no surprise. Every year it comes around that we're always in the same trenches fighting for every single dollar that we can find. This also allows businesses to come in. I know for a fact, I go down to Lewis and Auburn every single week, and I see their facilities down there. Very comparable, store facades and storefronts that just are absolutely in great condition. You wouldn't even know, except for a few symbolic symbols that define them as that type of business. Very clean inside, security inside. Just great looking institutions that mold in with the fabric of the community. I would think that we would care to have that same thing here. Obviously, these kinds of fees bring that comparability of those institutions in line with what we would desire to have in the city of Waterville. So with that, I do support the fee structure that is being proposed.
Like Councilor Mayhew pointed out, it really falls in line with what we've been doing, as looking at all our fees in our city and making sure that we line up, to this type of services that we provide. So, again, we have to commend the council and all the city officials looking at every aspect of our economics and trying to find ways to capture as much money as we can. To try to, put some relief on our tax base. So I just want to question, I had a question about the changes, because in the document it mentioned that it adds language that says that the appropriate license fee, if approved, right? It doesn't spell out the fee. So therefore, the question was, who decide what the fee is and how much it would be?
Right here.
But the fees are
They're
all
along, they're along it.
What section are you on?
So we're looking at the first section, yeah,
Article 5,
yeah. Section 4,
Section 4.
yeah. So section 4 says, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Commercial B, C, and D, a general industry may exchange the license of an adult use marijuana store license in the same location. Said holder must file an application with a $500 fee and
I see the confusion.
pay the appropriate license fee. Right.
It's, so
For whatever
the-
they want to look to
The
do.
license,
The license fee.
the license fees are in Article 5,
Section.
and the application fees are in Article 4.
Right.
So when Article 4 talks about license fees, you got to go down to Article 5, the one right below it, and those are the fees. Those are the license fees. So there are two fees, an application fee, an actual license fee.
Okay. Okay. And the fees that we looked at and the way they were increased, they're pretty much aligned with some communities around us and what they charge some of the kind of similar communities.
So we went and looked at service centers,
Yeah.
not small towns that are around us.
Okay.
We are not a small town. And what you sort of bounced on was that if you are a medical store and you want to convert to a recreational store, You must go through the entire process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other counselors have any questions or comments before we take commentary from the public? All right, we will open the podium to the public. If anyone has any questions or comments on these changes, now would be the time to come up.
Hi.
Hi.
Jennifer Bergeron. I live in Winslow, but I was on the marijuana committee, and I just have some questions. One is the application fee. Is that a one-time fee, so you apply, and then the renewal, you don't have to do that fee again?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. I'll skip another portion, but the part at the bottom where it says, every 2 years, Tier 4 renewal applicants may seek 5,000 square foot canopy increase. So the state allows them to seek 7,000. I believe that's why we put it in that way. So I'm not quite sure why that would be reduced, but you guys must have a good reason. And then it says each 2-year increase will require a $2,000 license fee increase. So if you originally just built a 20,000 square foot facility, you'd only have to pay the $7,500. But if you couldn't afford it, you built a 7,000 square foot facility and tried to grow responsibly, and twice wanted to add on an addition and incurred extra costs that way, you then every year would be paying $11,500 as a licensing fee instead of $7,500. That to me makes no sense. If the 7,000 to 20,000 square foot is the that's the limit, then that should be the fee for that. I don't understand why you'd raise it by $2,000 each time somebody wants to increase the size of their facility, unless I'm reading that incorrectly.
Jennifer, is there is the limit for a facility 20,000 square feet?
I think,
Per state law.
first of all, this is always a moving target. When we put this together, that was the Tier 4. So whether or not that's still Tier 4, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. But at the time, that was, and so that was the licensing fee. And at the time, their increase was 7,000 square foot.
Unfortunately, I don't know why it's not on here, but the reason you're able to do that, the extra 5,000 square feet, is because we're actually going to allow you 30,000 feet, 30,000 square feet.
That's the next line in this. Applicants for marijuana cultivation licenses may not hold more than 3 licenses and can't have 30,000 square feet. So when you look at it, you say, well, I'm already at Tier 4 and I get 20,000 and my 2 years are up, and then I just go to 7,000, it doesn't really leave me a room to grow another 7,000. So if we split it in 2, then you can get to your $30,000, your 30,000 square feet, and then because you are increasing your footprint, then there's also then, again, an increase in the cost.
So you would allow people then a second facility, so you'd have a 20,000 and then another 10,000 potentially?
I think the facility, the facility alone can be up to 30,000 square feet.
That's the way I
The
understood it.
one facility can be up to 30,000 square feet.
One person can, according to the ordinance, it said they may hold no more than 3 different licenses and cannot amass more than 30,000 square feet.
Right, but on this here, it says Tier 4, well, Tier 4 is limited, and that apparently is the way we also wrote
Yeah,
it,
so-
to 20,000.
But then you wrote, but in the thing, in your, this is your ordinance that says.
Right.
Every 2 years, Tier 4 renewals may seek a $7,000 square foot canopy increase.
No, it was
No, it's
7,000
7,000.
square feet.
Yeah, canopy increase. So they're going from 20,000 to 27,000.
Yep.
However, you can only hold 30,000.
Right, so
So
you
at
could have
that
3
point-
facilities, I
so-
guess, at 10,000 square feet, but then they'd be separate licenses, unless you're saying that you would put them all under one license. Even if they were in separate locations in the town, they'd be under,
Each location would be a different license.
so I don't think that quite,
So
But that was, I mean, I don't know. That's a good question that I don't know. Because doesn't spell out in the original ordinance either.
So
So,
our issue
we'd
is
have
that
that
if
same
we
issue.
allowed you 7,000 square feet every 2 years, if you had started with 20,000 square feet, you'd be over the 30,000 square feet.
Right.
That's why we reduced it to 5,000 so that you can get to
Right.
that. So you can't have, one facility alone, one building that holds 30,000 square feet, you can have that entire canopy. That's not,
Right, I think my biggest concern is that you're increasing the fee. So if somebody has $7,500 that they pay, and then you're increasing it by $2,000 each time they increase, then they're at $11,500 versus just starting out with that size, and then they're at $7,500. Like, you could potentially start out with 7,001 square feet under this ordinance, and then twice increase it by 5,000, and you're paying much more than the person who originally had it for 20,000.
but that extra doesn't kick in. You can grow from 7,001 feet to 20,000 feet under that first license.
Right.
You're only adding that extra.
If
for
you
the-
exceed
If
20,000.
you exceed the 20,000.
Okay, because I don't think it reads that way here.
Well, it didn't read that way before either, though.
Tier
I mean,
4
no.
renewal applicants may seek a
Possibly, yes.
No, I
5,000
mean, well, it's right, I mean,
Right.
it is right, yeah, the red
Right.
changes, so.
So
Right, but this isn't, it says each 2-year increase will require a $2,000
so we
license
can-
fee
can we
increase.
edit that to.
We can amend that.
We can
One
amend
way
that.
or another, that should be addressed.
You could do that right now.
But we can do that right now, and that's exactly what that is. From 7,001 to 20,000 feet, there is no extra license in there. Once you go over the 20,000, that's when that kicks in. and
Right.
Only that.
Okay,
So if you go from
So it doesn't
7,000 one
read
year to
that way.
15,000 the next year,
right,
that still falls under that Tier 4 license period.
okay.
You're not, you only have to pay that extra if you're increasing beyond that 20,000 square feet.
So that might be something you'd want to
We'll do it
clarify
right
in
now,
here.
sure.
And I'm just going to say a concern of mine. So we had said for the stores, the 1,500, because it was similar to what the surrounding towns, actually exactly what the surrounding towns had. My concern is that we're going to miss an opportunity. So I personally had a store, a women's clothing store in Hollowell when the dispensary was located in Hollowell. The people that went to that dispensary spent a lot of money in my store. So I think people have it in their minds, one thing about who it is who goes into a store like this. And I think we're missing out if we then had people say, you know what, I'm just going to go to a town that's less expensive, and then all of a sudden we miss out on those people coming and getting gas, stopping to get groceries, stopping at the restaurants, stop and shop. I think we have to be careful not to have that fee exceed a reasonable amount, and you all can determine what's reasonable, but it's nickel and diming, so 1,500 to 5,000, I don't care, I don't have a store, so it doesn't matter to me, but my thought is we're missing out. You know, I would rather see this town get a lot more business and have a lot more traffic and a lot more people shopping in the town rather than getting that extra, you know, few $1,000s. How many stores do you think we're going to have? Let's say we have 10. What's that a year? You know, versus having clientele that come to these stores on a regular basis. So, I mean, I was a bit concerned that you were going to increase some of these other,
And that was, we really took a look at it, and people can say what they want, but I wanted to make sure that the people that were going to invest in having stores in our city were going to put enough skin in the game to where we weren't going to get crap stores. We want people that want to maintain and keep professional-looking stores so that their clientele can go in it and it doesn't look like a blight on the city. I have to weigh what the marijuana shops want and what some of our residents want. And
I don't know
somewhere in there,
that $3,500 is going to make the difference as to whether it's a crap store or not a crap store. I think it just gives you more money in the city's pocket, which is, it is something that I understand the city needs. I wish they had done the law differently and it was sales tax that went back to the towns.
That is
Then
still a
everybody would be saying, hello.
that is still a possibility.
It's not going to happen, but yes, I mean, it's a possibility, and they'll pass it, and then you guys still won't get the
And then we
money.
won't get
So
nothing,
it
but-
doesn't matter.
There it goes.
I wouldn't count on it.
I never do.
I wish that's how they did it, because that would be fair. Then
agree.
you have 10 stores, and they all produce revenue, and you get more money. But Anyway,
But everything else seems okay? I mean, you're on the committee.
yeah, I mean, as far as, we did have a reason for the fee structure. I don't think that what you're raising as a fee is exorbitant, so, I will let other people speak to that. But,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So is there an amendment to make?
Yes. We'd like to amend it to make it so that anything over the 20,000 square feet then kicks in what would be the rider on Tier 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're looking to get. Yep.
Yep.
Second.
Patty?
Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment? Can we move as amended?
So moved.
And second.
All right. Is there any other public commentary on the marijuana ordinance?
Take that as a no.
All right. All in favor?
Okay.
All right. Counselor updates. Is there any counselor updates? Counselor.
I wouldn't be doing my job as a concert promoter for the Opera House if I didn't mention that tomorrow night we have Grammy Award winner Graham Nash coming to the Waterville Opera House. Still some tickets available. And then this Saturday we have Max Weinberg's Jukebox. Max Weinberg is a longtime drummer for Bruce Springsteen, also was the band leader on Late Night with Conan O'Brien. In this particular show, what he does is has a scrolling list of about 300 songs, and he allows the audience to choose the set list in real time.
Wow.
He also likes to invite people up on stage, so maybe he'll bring you up and you can pretend you're Bruce Springsteen.
Any other council updates? All right, now is the time for community notes. Community notes is a time where if anybody has something they would like to speak about that was not on the agenda tonight, now would be the time to do so. We do have a timer. You do have 3 minutes to say what you wish, and at the end of that time, you will be completed. And we just ask you to state your name and tell us where you live.
I'm Scott Macko, I live in Ward 7, and I'm here on behalf of the Board of Directors for the Waterville Community Land Trust. Just an update for those who weren't able to attend our our Sunday open house. You missed it. We actually dedicated a bench to, he's actually here tonight, longtime South End resident and volunteer Charlie Poulin. So there's now a bench there in his name honoring him. And the other reason I'm here is I just want to let everybody know that our fall summer newsletter is out. And for those who actually don't get it, if you'd like to, you can actually email, send your contact information. You can email watervilleclt@gmail.com. You can get your contact information, your address, and we'll make sure if you don't get one to get one. I actually have a few here extra. I have 4 here extra, and I'd like to give the other ones to the council. So.
Hello.
Hello.
Cindy Jacobs. I live in Ward 4, but I'm president of the Waterville Public Library Board of Trustees, and I'm here to share. We are having our one and only, but it is the 4th annual fundraiser, Nosh and Knockoff. It's a mystery play in the library. This year it's entitled The Librarian Scorned. It was written by Em Willett, who's runs the box office at the Opera House. It's acted by all the actors at the Opera House. We actually had too many actors volunteer to be part of this performance. It's at the library. We have food, wine, beer. You can buy tickets at the library's website. You can get a hold of me. It's October 26th. Doors open at 6. It starts at 6:30, and it is a 21-plus event.
All right.
So thanks so much, and I'm hoping anybody that needs any information, please get in touch with us.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm just double checking if I'm allowed to make comments on something that was on the agenda.
If you would like to speak about the
I would like
proclamation,
to.
yes,
Yes,
you can
thank
have
you.
3 minutes to speak about
Perfect.
that. ma'am.
I am not Em Willett. For anyone who knows her, we look the same, but we are not the same person, just clarifying. So my name is Shannon Thurston, and I'm from Ward 7. And I'd first like to thank all of you for everything that you do on the daily to keep our town running. Thank you. It looks beautiful, so thank you so much. It was stated in the mayor's proclamation that the reasoning for keeping the name Columbus Day is because of the prominent cultural influence of the Europeans after Columbus founded the New World. Remember, you can't discover what is already public knowledge just because it's not public knowledge to you. The indigenous people of Maine and the world are not asking you to negate the influence of Europeans. They're simply asking you to stop negating the influence and presence of the remaining Native Americans. The reason Europeans have had such a great cultural influence is because they were allowed to have cultural influences. It is easy to beat your chest and call yourself king of the cultural mountain when the mountain is stolen land made higher by the pile of bodies. The bodies of slaughtered Native Americans that could have easily had a cultural influence if their influences were allowed to survive. It is easy to be the first in line when you dispose of the line standing in front of you. We need you to stop praising the engineers of genocide. We need you to stop justifying overwhelming bad with the situational good. History is not on that side. We look, and it's not on that side. And a mouth full of expired facts based in racism that threatens to further erase an entire race of people isn't either. Thank you so much.
If I ask a question, is that part of my 3 minutes?
Yes.
Then I will not ask a question, although the question I wanted to ask was, by what authority is this proclamation made, and what does it mean? Is it your opinion or what? But I will just carry on and say what I wrote in the paper, what Amy Calder quoted me saying in the paper this morning, which is this, and I say this as the descendant of Italian immigrants: to insist on proclaiming October 14th Columbus Day seems to be an effort to elevate and celebrate the importance of what Columbus's arrival in the so-called New World did for white Europeans, while simultaneously dismissing as irrelevant the devastating consequences of European imperialism for indigenous peoples who had been living here for tens of thousands of years prior to Columbus's voyages, creating culture, organizing communities, honoring nature, loving, having children, and being human. Like so many of us, my white ancestors benefited enormously from the explorations of Columbus and other European adventurers in his day. But that does not mean that we should ignore the enormous suffering they inflicted on the people whose lands they stole and whose communities and futures they destroyed. It's time to start making amends. And I'll add also that President Benjamin Harrison, and I'm an American historian, is cited favorably in the proclamation, and I just want to note that he was the president and therefore the commander-in-chief of the United States Army during the Army's 1890 massacre at Wounded Knee of more than 140 Native people. He was also an assimilationist, which means he probably wouldn't have liked the term Italian-American, and he strove to undermine Native American land rights. He did support African-American men's voting rights, it's true, but he did so because at that point in time, the vast majority of African Americans supported his party, which was the party of Abraham Lincoln, which I hardly need to state bears little resemblance, if anything, to the Republican Party today.
My name is Nate Thomas. I'm from Ward 7. Nick, I'm here to tell you that I support your proclamation for Christopher Columbus. Contrary to what the very nice educated lady who said before me, though I am white, I will not play that card because I can't believe that my very poor French-Canadian mill-working family from Canada with 300 plus children probably, because they got bored in the middle of winter, really had a leg up because of Columbus. Furthermore, Columbus is not responsible for the genocide that happened in the United States, whereas it's true he influenced the Caribbean, he did not influence the United States. So I just wanted to say I am on your side for this. I support the Columbus Proclamation. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. And a little history, and I want to be clear, and I think your question actually warrants answering. The authority is it's a mayoral proclamation. I haven't changed state law. I haven't, it is still a federal holiday, and I'm simply recognizing an existing federal holiday, which is why, banks and federal buildings will be closed. The history of Columbus Day is a holiday that started after one of the greatest mass lynchings in the United States. It was of Italian Americans. And it was actually a pro-immigrant holiday, and it is a holiday that is still cherished by many. I respect the views of others that don't, but many do. And there are, we talk about inclusiveness and tolerance and diversity, and there is a diversity of opinions on this. I appreciate the respectful nature with which everybody has actually so far come to the podium and expressed their views, but August 9th is the United Nations International Day to celebrate Indigenous peoples. I believe November is a month for specifically the remembrance of Native Americans. This isn't meant as a slight to Native Americans, but there's a lot of us who also don't want our holidays to be just thrown in the trash. And that's why I felt it was important to have this proclamation to give voice to those of us that don't want our holidays thrown in the trash. And I say that respectfully. And that will be the end of that.
I just don't understand why, as mayor of this city, you get to make a declaration as if it represents the city.
Represents you.
Excuse me, we're going to keep this meeting in order.
It's your opinion, right? And
We're
you're using your platform to speak as if you're representing what the city is.
The mayor does have discretion with proclamations. The council actually made their own proclamation earlier this year. Welcome, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Kipling Mitchell. I live over on Bartlett Street. I'm sorry, I don't know what ward that is. Good evening, Mayor Isgro and members of the Waterville Council. My name is Kipling Mitchell, and I live at Bartlett Street here in Waterville. I'd like to thank you all for letting me speak to you tonight. I would also like to state that I am not, and I repeat, I am not representing any specific group or any group of people. I am speaking on my own behalf as a Waterville resident, a citizen of the state of Maine, as a tribal member of the Penobscot Indian Nation located in Old Town, Maine. I'm here to share my concerns, sir, about the proclamation that was issued by Mayor Isgro, designating October 14th, 2019 as Columbus Day, whereas the state of Maine legislature has renamed it Indigenous Peoples Day by state law. My main concern about this proclamation is that the probable negative consequences that will have on the city of Waterville and its citizens. Some folks may see this proclamation as a defiant gesture to the Maine legislature, to the governor, or whatever the case may be. But I fear that many more will view it as a city that is out of touch with the rest of the American society and may think twice about living here or starting a business here. Now, please do not get me wrong. I do not think that Waterville or anybody should just blindly follow the crowd on issues like this. As an example, I have been in the information technology field for over 21 years. I do not have a Facebook account, and I am not on Twitter. But like it or not, any entity that wants to thrive, whether that entity is in the public or the private sector, image is a very important thing. And I feel that any future proclamations in the same vein as this one will hurt Waterville in the long run. To back this up, the U.S. Department of Labor states that within 5 years, the population in Maine will be 25% of that population, and that's the total population, not a small working segment. The total population will be 65 and older. We cannot afford to not have people come in to replace us who are going to be retiring. I am 56 years old. I'm looking at retirement, not too far down the road. This is something we cannot let go. In closing, I wonder if a proclamation would ever be issued celebrating the Arab or Middle Eastern people's contributions to the city of Waterville and to the world. I say this just because the current proclamation has a section which states, in part, that some of the accomplishments attributed to Columbus were, quote, discovery, knowledge, and greatness, unquote. Well, the ancient Egyptians began the base 10 number system that we have today. It allows us to divide large numbers so we can use them. It also allows for commerce to occur, as well as making measurements more uniform. Also, the Islamic world was very advanced in the medical arts. Middle Eastern peoples conducted surgery, had pharmacies, and knew quite a bit about human physiology. In contrast, at the same time, doctors in Europe were removing blood to cure people of ills and hoping for the best. Or if they saw something else they didn't understand, they'd burn them at the stake.
Right, sir.
I apologize for going over my time.
That's the timer, sir. Thank you.
In conclusion, I would like to thank everybody for their time and for allowing me to speak, and I do hope I've made my concerns understood.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Alan Imes from Waterville. I guess I'm just making some general statements here. There's a lot of people in America that get offended very easily, in general. We have thin, very, very thin skins. We're raising kids, we're raising college students to have thin skins. And it's amazing that we teach tolerance so much and preach it, but we're extremely intolerant when the view is different. So that's just, that was about 12 seconds, I think, maybe 20. I'm going to make a proclamation. You don't even have to make it, Mayor. We have Mother's Day and Father's Day coming up. I am proclaiming that Mother's Day and Father's Day are extremely important holidays in America. I am hoping, for the sake of God and for the sake of the country, that we're not going to make it a general neutral day. That if there is still mothers, there's still fathers, they're extremely important to the country. So I'll make that proclamation tonight, Mayor Nick.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you having guts to stand up, and it takes guts to be the mayor. If you're a leader, you're going to be slapped sometimes. It's the way it goes. Congratulations for being the mayor. Council, and we appreciate all your hard work, everything that you do. I have a quick question, if I can take with that. This marijuana thing, I'm not going to get into that, but I have a question in regards to it. How much revenue in the next 5 years do you hope that this marijuana dispensary thing brings in to the city? What's your kind of goal or idea?
I'd like to see it not top off.
I understand that, but I'm a businessman too.
I'm hopeful that we can generate, over the next 5 or so years, a few $100,000.
Is that per year or is that total?
I'm hoping with everything that is coming down the pipeline, that's per year.
Okay, so that's good. Now, one of the things also that I think would just a thought that would generate some more income is there's a lot of people building houses, but they're not building a lot of houses in Waterville because of the taxes. But they are building in the surrounding areas. I know we're a full-service deal. I would like to see more houses being built here because that does bring in, that brings in a lot of money per year. This is a thought. I think my time is almost up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Price. I am from Ward 2, and I am here again to speak on something that I have said numerous times in regards to the mayor's many proclamations and Facebook statements and pages that he represents. There's been a lot of really great information from people that I don't feel the need to go over, but the doctrine of discovery that you wanted to really highlight as this awesomeness. It celebrates the racist foundation in which all federal Indian law currently is founded upon, and it remains intact. It pushes the oppression of people of color, which is a consistent part of your rhetoric. The white nationalist.
No, it's
yes,
not.
I'm not done yet.
That's ridiculous.
I'm not done yet. I reclaim
That's
my
ridiculous.
time. I reclaim my time.
No,
I reclaim my time. Thank you. We see this play out continuously, still to this day, in mass Indian incarceration, in children from indigenous populations being taken from their family. The UN has said to the United States that we're ignoring international standards in international practice. Again, when we voted against the UN Declaration of Rights of the Indigenous Peoples, our treatment of them historically has been horrendous. And your statement and proclamation flouting state law just further clarifies your perspective on what they bring to the table, which in your mind is nothing. It is a negative to the state. With that, the state of Maine is 94% white. So what culture do you cling to so hard that you feel the need to oppress people of color time and time again? And you are proud of it. And honestly, I am embarrassed. I'm embarrassed time and time again by the news stories that come out against Waterville that are not about the great things that we're doing, but about the humorous ploys that you do. So thank you for putting us in the paper for nothing good, because there is a lot good happening here and you don't highlight that. Thank you for your time.
I've seen her Facebook page. It's very anti-Israel and anti-Semitic, by the way.
Hi, Hillary Koch. I'm Ward 4. I had a mammogram about 6 months ago, and there was a suspect area in the mammogram. And so I was told I needed to come back for an ultrasound. So I went back for an ultrasound, and they make you wait, and they take it up to the radiologist. And the woman came back and said, he wants more. So they did another ultrasound right there on the spot, took it back, and they said, well, we don't think it's anything back, come back in 6 months. So I went back today for a mammogram, and most of you have never had one. It's not fun, but I did it, and I also had to wait again. And I waited, and I worried, and I was terrified about how my life might change if I was told, well, you need an ultrasound, or we need to do this or that. So she came back, and she said, I think it looks okay. We want you back in 6 months. Now, that's not normal, but it's not anything that I'm really going to fret about until I have bad news. There is no bad news. But I came home, and after thinking about all of this, and this was really difficult, and it's something that a lot of women have to go through. Today was the very first day of National Breast Cancer Awareness. But I came home, and I'm sorry, but the front page of the newspaper had nothing to do with it. Now, I recognize that this is your right to make this proclamation, but I really question the choice to make proclamations that truly are intended to divide and not unite. And I've said this before, we disagree. I think it's okay to disagree, but I really think leaders need to lead. And I think you lead by looking to unite people, not divide them. And I think it's perfectly clear, based on the emotion tonight, that it had an effect of dividing people. And I think the newspaper's here, and I think the news is here because they're looking for one more controversy about Waterville. And it's disappointing. And I really commend the counselors who chose to speak up and say it. I want to recognize that silence is condoning, and it's disappointing. 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer. Women over the age of 40 are at greater risk. This is a problem for women, and you could have used today as a day to recognize that. So you're not worth my 3 minutes. Your division is not worth my 3 minutes. But information for women that might save lives is. Women need to get mammograms. Women need to do monthly checks. And men who love women, any women, should support that, not this.
Julian Payne, Ward 5. Being from England, Columbus Day, Thanksgiving, it's always been double Dutch to me. I try to understand it. I really don't have much interest in it, and I do my best. But so the proclamation I'm not fully versed on, but I do understand that it is your First Amendment right as a mayor to make a proclamation. Usually mayors have been democratically elected by the majority of the community, so in essence they do speak for the community. Even if it's a three-way race, they still had the majority of the votes at that point. And mayors have always made proclamations in Waterville. I think if people don't like the fact that mayors make proclamations, that might be a charter change issue, something to consider at that point. But the mayors have very few powers in Waterville now, and proclamation is one of the few things left to them. I think that if you polled the community, it would probably be split somewhere along 50% that agree with you and 50% that don't, especially in Ward 5. I don't believe that everyone in the community is against your proclamation. It is a federal holiday recognized still as Columbus Day federally, followed by 43 other states. The biggest activists in the community with the loudest voices are the first to jump up and down when someone else exercises their First Amendment right. And even more so, you might stand up here and call yourself divisive or all the things that people say, but also the people that respond to what you do are equally as quick to draw the sword and take up the fight against you. So this is what I see in Waterville. I called it a while ago. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of anger with a lot of people, and people are very quick to come to battle, and yet they have the same First Amendment rights. And the last thing I'd ask is, you know, being as I'm from England, can you please get rid of July 4th and call it British Day?
Never.
Thank you.
Kathy Weeks, Ward 1. I would just like to say that this whole subject is just so out of hand. We have had Columbus Day since 1937. It's never been a problem up until this past year when we have the person sitting in Augusta creating all of this, really getting rid of all of our culture and our history, just like they did in Syria when ISIS came in to try to destroy everything.
We will have order in this meeting. We've been respectful of every speaker until now, and we're going to continue to be respectful, thank you, or you will be escorted out by the police chief who's here for that purpose.
I would like to say that this is just another way to create issues within our community. Councillor Thomas, I agree with you. We should be focusing in on reducing taxes and everything else instead of a proclamation and attacking our mayor. Many of us did not agree with the proclamation that was given in June. And I believe every councillor voted for that proclamation in June. So let's have some respect and let's just move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Council and Mayor Isgro. I am also here to speak to the proclamation. But first, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and honor the tribes of the Wabanaki Confederacy upon whose land Waterville is built. Mayor Isgro, I also ask that you apologize and rename October 14th Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Waterville. Indigenous Peoples Day honors and remembers the culture, traditions, and strength of Native Americans while also recognizing the pernicious history of colonialism in North America and also Central America. Columbus Day is a malevolent erasure of a long and violent history of genocide and abuse of Indigenous peoples and must not be recognized because of its role in upholding European colonialism, violence, and white supremacy. Only by being honest and accountable for the sinister aspects of history can we initiate justice and what restoration is possible going forward. For these reasons, I ask again that you reverse your mayoral proclamation regarding Columbus Day.
Thank you.
I'd also like to use the remainder of my time to honor Indigenous people, especially if that's not going to be happening on October 14th.
I believe it is. I believe it's on the city calendars still. I believe it's on our school calendars as Indigenous Peoples Day. But you are certainly welcome to use your time as you wish, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, is there anybody else for community notes? This is a council meeting, and no, you don't have 3 minutes to just to be silent, actually. That's not how the meeting works. Excuse me, I'm running the meeting here. This meeting will be held in order, and that's how it works. If she has something to say, she has 3 minutes. Anybody continuing to speak, I will ask the police chief to escort out. You are out of order in this meeting. You will abide by the decorum of the city council meeting. Who's next for community notes? Seeing as none, I will move to the, oh, okay.
Hello. Now, hi, my name is Cody Pajic. I'm from Unity, right next door.
You're from Unity.
In this proclamation, Christopher Columbus is praised for his courage and his willingness to take unknown risks in exchange for discovery, knowledge, and greatness. I do not recognize the Columbus described in his proclamation, and neither would the indigenous peoples who were subjected to his cruelty. When Columbus arrived in the New World, he encountered a people known as the Arawak. In his journals, he described their peacefulness, their generosity, and a way of life that any good Christian would admire. He wrote about them in his journals. They brought us parrots and balls of cotton and spears. They willingly traded everything they owned. They do not bear arms, and they do not know them, for I showed them a sword, and they took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance. They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want. And that is exactly what he did. Columbus and his men brutally raped indigenous women, committed rampant infanticide, and subjected his fellow human beings to heartless cruelty and violence in order to further his own exploits. It is disgusting to suggest that someone capable of such evil should have a holiday named after him. Whatever positive values Columbus supposedly brought to the Americas are far overshadowed by the destruction that he brought. Now, there's a difference between acknowledging our history and celebrating the shameful parts of it. By recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day, we acknowledge that our country was built with the blood of the innocent, that the damage our predecessors inflicted can never be undone, but that we want to repair what little can be. Now, if we truly believe, as this proclamation claims, that all men are created equal, then there is no reason that we should be celebrating a man who so clearly believed that Indigenous people deserved the horrible fate that he subjected them to. And finally, just a note on a comment that was made by a previous speaker that Columbus Day was never a problem until this year. It has been a problem every single year since it was first introduced, and I am glad that we are finally getting to a point that more than just the indigenous people are talking about it and that we can actually have this conversation. But don't fool yourself and think that this was never a problem. It always has been. We are just starting to listen to the people who it's been a problem for. So yeah, vote no.
Mike, manager's report.
Patty's going to put it up on the screen.
How many people want to speak? If you want to speak, you need to get in line, because I don't know that people want to speak if you're all sitting down and nobody moves. Mr. Evans, be in order or you will be escorted out of the meeting. Can you control yourself, please, sir? Please, control yourself, sir, or I will ask you to leave. Control yourself, sir.
Hello.
Hi, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Celine Nash, and I'm from Unity College. When I was in middle school, we were taught about Columbus Day. It was the only thing it was called. We were taught that he was a hero. We were taught, and we sung his praises. We praised this man who we knew little about. What we were taught was a fantasy. We were taught that he made this land for all of us, and he did so while being kind to the natives. This was a bold-faced lie. He raped countless Native Americans. He murdered. As soon as he got there, he stole the land, he sold the people into slavery, and he killed them. To this day, Native Americans are suffering. They're still suffering from what happened hundreds of years ago. Where we stand right now was once Native land. People with lives, with families, loves, hopes, fears, dreams, they were once here. To honor them and to honor the countless natives who have suffered under our persecution, I ask that we keep it as Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm not a mother, but I'm asking every parent here, would you want your child to be taught to praise a rapist, a murderer, and a thief of both land and people? Or would you want them to honor people who have suffered? Would you want them to honor people who have been wronged throughout history. Thank you for your time.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Destiny Ovenson, and I'm here from Unity College. So, Mayor, one thing that really stuck out to me in your speech was the word honor. And the definition of the word honor is to regard with great respect. Columbus himself stated in a letter to King Ferdinand, "As soon as I arrived in the Indies, in the first island which I found, I took some of the natives by force, in order that they might learn and might give me information of whatever there is in these parts. And so it was that they soon understood us, and we them, either by speech or by signs, and they have been very serviceable." Does that make you all uncomfortable? Does it make your skin crawl? Because it should. It does mine. And it actually makes me pretty sick that we're standing here trying to undo something that has already been done in an effort to, make a more disrespect to Indigenous people. Every day we disrespect them in this country. And quite frankly, the fact that we are making an effort to take away the one thing that we did make right is pretty ridiculous. And if that's the example of honor that you want to show to these young kids growing up in this country, then that's a future that I don't want to see. And I should hope that you all don't either. Thank you for your time.
Mike, we're going to manager's report.
Manager's report is going to be up on the screen in a second, but you all have a copy of it. Leading the way is the Bill grant, the two-way traffic grant for Main Street. We're just about ready to sign the contract with the federal government. That, of course, well, it's official, but that will make it really official, signing the contract. The final design for the project is just about complete. And so now they go into writing up the work specifications, which takes them right through the winter, and this would be bid out in 2020, early on. The second item is something that's also taking a lot of time, and that's the concourse redesign. And we have a committee meeting coming up, a parking committee meeting on October 10th, which time we're going to talk about that redesign for our concourse. The Alfond Pool project has, we've submitted an application to the Alfond Foundation for $2.3 million. So that's a very substantial sum that we're requesting from the foundation to repair, replace the rest of the facility. We did the slides this year, and it's the rest of the facility that will come next year. And I know the Recreation Committee, Council Morris and Councilor Smith are part of that project, part of the review of the pool project. Header Falls, another item that's taking a lot of time. And if you can go to the second page, Patty.
Oh, sorry.
We're going to be meeting very soon with a development group that has been working with us to propose something at Header Falls. Still very, very much in the formative stages, so nothing concrete on paper yet to look at, but we're working our way there. On the Lockwood Mills project, a very, very exciting opportunity for the city of Waterville to see those mills be renovated. All of it really rests on the approval from the Maine State Housing Authority for the housing component piece of the Lockwood Mills rehab. So that's expected in November. Riverwalk, we're going to have a work session tomorrow, but I'm afraid the weather is going to cancel that out. We delayed the awning, the erection of the awning work for next spring.
No complaints there.
None at all.
Yep. It's coming, though.
We can hold that off indefinitely.
So that design is done, and next spring we'll bond issue. The money that we borrowed through the bond issue has been deposited in our bank. That happened this week. So all of that work doing the bond is complete. Feels good to get through all of that.
Super low rate.
And now, well, some people have already started spending money, as you can see with the fire department.
Thanks, Chief.
And finally, the streetlights is another project that's funded through the bond, and they're currently in a GIS system locating all of our streetlights. And so when that is done, then they'll be able to go through a very systematic replacement of all those lights. That should be happening this fall. There are two other things. I don't see the solar. Oh, okay. Today we had an initial meeting on Costangway Square. Remember, Costangway Square redesign is part of the BUILD grant, the federal grant for Main Street. There's money in that grant for Costangway Square, and so that will, but that's a ways away, 1.5 to 2 years away, probably. But we need to start working with Waterville Creates because of the center building next to City Hall being rehabbed and how that will affect the square and also the connection to City Hall. Currently, we have that overhead connection walkway between the two buildings. That's going to be replaced. So we're starting to work on that project in terms of laying it out, how it will work. And the solar projects, Councilor Bofia has been leading the solar committee on that. And I know they meet again in October. We have received a preliminary proposal from another company, and Councilor Bofia and us, there are other two councilors that are on that committee, Coelho and
Sid.
Councilor Mayu. Okay, good. We'd like to meet with you three to look at that proposal from another company regarding solar opportunity. And maybe that can meet what Councilor Bofia and the committee have been thinking about is usage, electricity usage from that solar facility for city facilities.
But the new proposal is not for us, is it? Isn't it similar to the old one?
It is not for us, but it could possibly work in correlation with what we're doing. So we have to look at some
long as we're
options to see how
saving
we
money.
can make that happen.
You really do care about that.
I do.
And that's the end of my reports, unless there are any questions about the projects. We'll keep moving forward. Thanks.